Okay. Thank you.
So, quick question.
Yeah.
I guess we're still in the middle of the Maclaikas about why Rafani Niktam is said, Rava and Rava.
Right.
Is this a rabbinic innovation?
Yeah, totally. Totally. Both reasons come out as rabbinic. Yeah. Okay. Okay, we're going to start on Hayamid Beis, towards the top of the page. We looked at the Rabbi Yochanan. Let me mute. It's a few lines from the top. Okay. We thank Hashem that we're able to learn Torah every day. In the schus of our learning, we should have Beis Hamikdash immediately. So the Gemara says, "Beplukked the Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Shua ben Levi." We've been discussing the last few days. We've been discussing why a messenger that brings a get needs to be at the writing of the get and the signing of the get. When he arrives, he has to say, "I was there at the writing, and I was there. I was signed in my presence. It was written in my presence." Why does he have to do that? So we had a machlekes between Rabba and Rava. Rabba said because of Lishma. We're not sure if people outside of Israel write the get properly, so we need the person to inform us that it was done properly. And Rava said that the reason is because we may not be able to find witnesses later that can validate the document. So we want to get that over with right now by the person saying that it's valid, I was there. The Gemara now says that this machlekes between Rabba and Rava actually goes back a few generations. It was a machlekes between Rabbi Shua ben Levi and Rabbi Yochanan, or slightly before Rabba and Rava. They're also Amirayim, they're not Tanaim. But Rabbi Shua ben Levi is in a Brisa. It doesn't mean he's a Tana. He's an Amira.
Everybody agrees you have to say fine after.
Yeah. Question is,
different people have different reasons why.
Right.
So why do we have to resolve it? Why can't we just have it?
Because it turns out that there's differences between what the reason is. If it's because of this, then this is going to be then it's going to be in this case you're going to have to. If it's because of that,
we're not debating. We're not trying to understand if we have to say it. We agree we have to say it.
Yeah.
Everybody agrees we have to say it. Everybody has their reasons why, but ultimately, what is the reason why? Determine is what we're trying to figure out,
right.
Because that has an effect.
That has an effect, and it turns out that to minimize this whole machlekes, what happens is that Rabbah, we said before that Rabbah, who said that it has to do with Lishma, is also concerned about the witnesses as well. So Rabbah holds of Rava. It's just Rava didn't hold of Rabbah. Rava wasn't concerned about Lishma. And even Rabbah, that was concerned about Lishma, he also told us that at a certain stage in history, that wasn't relevant either. Yeah, so Rabbah is very close to Rava's opinion because he holds of Rava's opinion, and his own opinion he doesn't even hold of at a certain stage. It was only continued because of a certain decree, which we didn't make if it was an obscure case. Okay, so we looked at the Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Shua ben Levi. It's exactly a machlekes Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Shua ben Levi. Chad Amar, one of them said, we don't know who, we'll see soon. Lefi shein b'kiyum l'shma. Taking notes?
No, I don't.
Very nice.
He's watching the webcast.
Lefi shein b'kiyum l'shma, because they're not experts in l'shma. That means that outside of Israel, they didn't do the get properly, and so we need the person to testify that it was done properly. The messenger. And the other one said because we don't have witnesses that will be around to be able to validate it because the get came from a place that was overseas. The witnesses lived overseas. We don't know who they are. We don't know. We won't recognize the signatures. Testayim, this is very common when the Gemara does this, where it says that we have a machlekes and we don't know who holds what. The Gemara then says, let it be settled that so-and-so is the one that holds this. So the Gemara here does Testayim, let it be settled. Rabbi Shua ben Levi who became Lishma. that Rabbi Shua ben Levi is the one that was concerned about Lishma, about if it was done for the right intention, if it's a kosher get. The Reb Shimon bar Abba, Aisi Gita l'kamed Rabbi Shua ben Levi. Reb Shimon bar Abba, he brought a get in front of Rabbi Shua ben Levi in Israel. So I need to say, he says, no, you don't have to say it. Follow? He says, you don't have to say it. Get came from out of Israel. He says, you don't have to say it. That was only in earlier generations that you needed to say it. Because in the earlier generations, they didn't know how to do the Gittin. We required people to say that it was done properly. They didn't know how about the Shema. But nowadays, later generations, his generations, the Bekim Lishma, that they are experts in Lishma, you don't have to say B'fanei Nech, that whole rule is over.
Isn't that the opposite if you read the Sederis?
Yeah. It seems to be the opposite if you read the Sederis. What it means is that, well, there's two possibilities. There was Rashi's pshat and Taisa's pshat in the beginning. Rashi learned that the people of Chutzlaretz were not B'nai Torah. But it could be that because of the Galus, so people left Israel and moved more into Galus, and they spread out over there. And that could be why they were more learned. According to Tosfos, they actually didn't accept a certain teaching about Lishma. They learned the different, they didn't accept the drasha. But somehow that drasha spread out and was accepted. So the Gemara is proving from this that Rabbi Shua ben Levi is the one that held that the issue was Lishma. See, because he brings up that was only in the earlier generations, but now in our generations, where the outside of Israel, they're experts in Lishma. So you don't have to say it. So he must have been the one that said Lishma. Rabbi Yochanan was the one that said because of validating signatures. Yeah.
Is Rabbi Yochanan Nafcha?
Yeah.
And Rabbi Yeshua ben whatever.
And Levi.
He is a contemporary.
Yeah, he's probably a little older, but
so both these people coming, even though they're in that show, way before Rabbah and Rava.
Right.
So if they're saying we don't have to do it anymore, so why 100 years later is Rabbah and Rava you didn't have this question?
Rabbah and Rava are arguing about Pshat in the Mishnah.
Oh.
Everyone's arguing about what does the Mishnah mean? Why
When
you had
it
to
said
say when
that.
it had to say is it because of this or because of that? It turns out when they were actually arguing, it wasn't relevant. Because now the Gemara said it still is relevant because there's a Gezeira Shemayachzer Adav Kulay that maybe things will return to being corrupt. And so they wanted to keep it anyway. So, well, the Gemara says, okay, you have a good proof that Rabbi Shua ben Levi holds this. However, we have a strong question on this. But Tizbara, do you really think that you don't have to say Fanei Nechtam anymore because people are now learned? We have a problem. Rabbah is later Rava. But Rabbah, who held that the issue was Lishma, holds of Rava. Now, what the Gemara is doing with this is it's saying that if Rabbah holds of Rava, then probably Rabbi Shua ben Levi holds of Rabbi Yochanan. Now, how do you know? Maybe Rabbah accepted Rava and Rabbi Shua ben Levi didn't accept Rabbi Yochanan. So what's really going on here is that how did we prove that Rabbah holds of Rava? Because Rabbah held because of Lishma, Rabbah held because of validating witnesses. Now we had a Gemara where it said, we quoted the Mishnah, we said that from one district to another district in Israel, you have to say B'fanei Nechta, B'fanei Nechta. According to Rabbah, that the issue is Lishma. If it's in Israel, you don't have to say it. It must be that since it was one district to another district, the witnesses maybe don't travel, people won't recognize the signatures, people don't travel. It must be that although Rabbah is concerned about Lishma, he has a secondary concern about the witnesses, and that's why in that case you would need to say that there even according to the opinion of Lishma, you still have another concern that you have to take care of, which is people need to be able to travel to be able to validate the document. So if Rabbah holds of Rava and we had a proof for it, so obviously Rabbi Shua ben Levi is going to hold of Rabbi Yochanan because the same proof is going to apply. So how could you say that he doesn't need to say B'fanei Nechta, B'fanei Nechtam? What about validating the document that exists in his universe? Was it Gestalt? Okay. I'm on Hey Amid Beis, and I'm up to second question on the statement that we just made. I'll be up to it tomorrow in a moment, right before it tomorrow. But another problem is we mentioned before that there was a decree that maybe they'll forget how to do it lishma. They'll stop doing it lishma. We always want, if you're coming from outside Israel, we want you to say funny nechtam, even though now we think it's okay, but we're not really confident that it's going to continue. And there was a gezerah. Rabbi Shua ben Levi says, don't worry about it. Ella, we have to say, Reb Shimon bar Rabba in a shachrina have a bad day. Reb Shimon bar Rabba was coming with the second person. There were two people bringing the get. Remember, two people bringing the get, we said, you don't make a gzera because that wasn't the common practice for two people to bring a get. And if you're worried about finding witnesses, we have the two witnesses right here, two people to validate the signature. They're standing right here. So you don't need to say b'fanei nechtam when two people are coming, not because of lishma, because lishma is over, not because of the gzera, because you don't make a gzera on a obscure case, and you're not worried about the validating the signatures because we have two people. So why didn't we mention him? We didn't mention him because he was just an ordinary fellow, and Reb Shimon bar Abba was a great sage, so he wasn't mentioned. But really, there was another person that was coming along. Okay, now you have to keep this in mind.
Idea of an expert not able to write a divorce again.
An expert.
Oh yeah, it says. It's about Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yeshua, and Levi said that when someone says that it's written in my presence, signed in my presence, because it says they're not experts in writing yet.
Lishma.
Lishma, yeah.
Lishma. Yeah, that was the view of Rabbah, that outside of Israel, they weren't experts in writing it Lishma, and maybe it wasn't done properly. Okay, now keep in mind the machlekes Rabbi Shua ben Levi and Rabbi Yochanan, because it's going to come back to us. If Rabbi Shua ben Levi held that the issue is lishma, and Rabbi Yochanan obviously holds the issue is validating the signatures. Right? That's basically where we're holding right now. Itmar stated by Amiraim, if they come a nice in front of how many people should the get be given? We mentioned this in passing twice before. Rabbi Yochanan. Reb Chanina. So machlekes Rabbi Yochanan and Reb Chanina. Chadam b'fnei shnayim, chadam b'fnei shleisha. One says that the get's supposed to be given in front of two people. One says the get's supposed to be given in front of three people. Tistayim, let it be settled. The Rabbi Yochanan and the Amar b'fnei shnayim. The Rabbi Yochanan is the one that says that it's supposed to be given in front of two people. This Gemara looks very innocent right now, but it's going to take us into a contradiction with back on Rabbi Shua ben Levi and Rabbi Yochanan. So it starts off just like. It looks like it's another subject, but it's going to hit us in a moment. Well, I'm sorry? Yeah. Tistayim, let it be settled that Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Yochanan is the one that held because of two. The Rav bar Rav Chisda, I guess Rav Chisda had a son. Rav Chisda had sons, Mar Yenuka, Mar Kashisha. Remember, he had his young son and his old son. But I guess Ravin was another son. I don't remember him on the chart. So, Ravin bar Rav Chisda, I see Gitla coming to Rabbi Yochanan, and he brings a get in front of Rabbi Yochanan. Amalei, he says, Zil havle b'afi trei. Go give the get to the wife in front of two people. Ve'imalu, and say to them, "Fanei nechta v'fanei nechta." How many people is he supposed to give it in front of? Two. Tistayim, Rabbi Yochanan is the one that says two. Rabbi Chanina is the one that says three. Rabbi Chanina is sort of a teacher of Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Chanina was the Rosh Hashiva before Rabbi Yochanan. He took over after Rabbi Affas, he took over after Rebbe.
Right? What does it mean in say to them,
say when you're giving the get to the woman, you have to say in front of two people that two people need to be there. You have to make a statement that the get was written and signed in my presence. He was a shliach, this Ravin bar Rav Chisda.
So that's three.
1 second. 1 second. So 1 second. So according to the way you want to learn, when Rabbi Yochanan says two, that means only one person.
It has to be the
Is that what you want to say? Or does Rabbi Yochanan, when he says two, he means in front of two people? And when Rabbi Chanina says three, he means in front of four people, including himself. Let's see. Hold on 1 second. Chaim, the Gemara is going to discuss this. So, but he says in front of two people. The Gemara says Tistayim. That's a good proof. It's supposed to be given in front of two people. Remember when we brought this in before, the issue was that why did we bring this up earlier? Because we weren't sure if we were really being lenient on the woman when we said that she should that she only needs one witness. We weren't sure if we were being lenient. Maybe we're being strict on her because if the husband's going to show up, she's going to be in big trouble. So we said, oh no, don't worry about the husband showing up. Because the shliach needs to give it over in front of two people, or possibly three people, he for sure doesn't want to ruin his reputation. He for sure confirmed that the get was done willingly and it's the husband's not showing up. So we know that he's going to have to make a declaration in front of two people. So it wouldn't have meant, Chaim, it wouldn't have meant that he's doing it only in front of one other person. He meant in front of two people, or possibly three people. That means that it's going to ruin his reputation. Yeah. Okay, so whatever the case is, Rabbi Yochanan is the one that says two. Gemara says, Lema b'hakam iflagi. Let's say that the machlekes between two or three has to do with the following. The one that says that you need two witnesses there, that the get that in front of, when he gives the get, that he has to say b'fanei nechtav in front of. That's because the issue is about lishma, because you don't need a bezdin to say that the get was done lishma. You don't need a bezdin. That's not something that requires a court. That would be just the statement that we have witnesses. No, for two, for lishma. All you're saying is that this food is not like as if you're saying this food is kosher. You're not saying food. You're saying this get is kosher. So if the husband's ever going to show up and says, "Oh, it wasn't done right," so we say, "Oh, we have witnesses here that it was done right."
This
Because
is just pertaining to a get, not
Yeah.
like writing the Sefer Torah or
Right.
anything.
other things we rely on one person, but over here, if the husband would come and contest, which that happens sometimes in
Right.
divorces, the husbands can make trouble. So we have witnesses here that can testify that it was done properly. That's all we need is witnesses. Mandam b'fnei shleisha, the one that says you need three people there. Why? Because we're trying to validate a document. We're notarizing the document, and that needs to be done in front of a court. So you need three people there. So what's the logic of two versus three? The logic is a machlekes between Rabba and Rava, between Rabbi Shua ben Levi and Rabbi Yochanan. So what did Rabbi Shua ben Levi hold before? He held lishma. How many would that require? Two. What did Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Shua ben Levi argued with Rabbi Yochanan? Rabbi Yochanan must have held that it was because of validating the witnesses, notarizing the document. Now, if that's the case, then he should hold really three. We have over here, we have a machlekes Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Chanina. Over here, there's a machlekes 2 or 3, and it's going to come out that Rabbi Yochanan holds that you only need 2. So from the previous machlekes, Rabbi Shua ben Levi and Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Shua ben Levi would hold 2, and Rabbi Yochanan would hold 3. From this machlekes, Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Chanina, Rabbi Yochanan holds 2, and Rabbi Chanina holds 3. But Rabbi Yochanan over here holds 2. When he argued with Rabbi Shua ben Levi, he would have held 3. So we have a contradiction.
Why need three to validate the witness?
When we validate a document, it needs to be done in Besdin. We're going to write on the bottom of a document. We're going to say the Maisav Tlasa Yasvinan, and we're validating that these signatures are signatures of so and so, and the 3 Dayanim sign. It's the way they would notarize the document. See,
That's a base.
that's a Besdin.
Witnesses.
Right. So you don't. So the witnesses would only be to tell me that the get was kosher. In case the husband's going to show up and say it's not kosher, I'll always have witnesses here that say that it is kosher. It's a security. But to validate the document, which was Rava's concern, which was Reb Yochanan's concern, I should require.
The witnesses who see this are not validating the signature.
No, the Besdin that hears this is validating the document.
Right.
Right. So if that's the case, I would need 3.
But
In that case, you would need a base.
The Besdin, which means 3 people. Besdin, which means
yeah, but now that we've introduced the idea of the
We're not aware.
No, not Not yet, they're on their way.
Good morning. I'm sorry.
But now that we have the idea of doing this in front of a based in, that's three.
Right.
And now there are two witnesses also. They can't be part of the based in. So now we have two separate witnesses, plus the three for the based in, plus the one who says b'fanei niktam. So now we have six people showing up in front of this poor woman, right?
No, it's all included.
The two people can't be part of the based in.
One second. Hold on that question. Hold the question for another 2 minutes. Hold the question.
Okay.
Wait. Yeah, answer what the Gemara is about to discuss. So hold it. Okay. So the Gemara says like this. The Tizbara. How could you say that this is the Machlekes Rabbi Shua ben Levi and Rabbi Chanina, that it has to do with if it's Lishma, the concern about Lishma, or if the concern is because we don't have validating the document. From the Gemara earlier on the top of the page, we learned that Rabbi Shua ben Levi was concerned that the document wasn't written Lishma, wasn't written for her sake. And that would mean that Rabbi Yochanan Amar. Right, it did not mention that. It didn't mention it. That's why this Gemara is tricky. The Rabbi Shua ben Levi and Rabbi Yochanan, we're not discussing how many witnesses you need. How many? It was just discussing what's the reason why he needs to say b'fanei niktam.
Right.
But from that we're deducing, according to the way we're learning now in Rabbi Chanina and Rabbi Yochanan, that this logic would tell me 2, and that logic would tell me 3.
Yeah, I think I was like trying to bring that up like yesterday or the day before. No, Shabbos yesterday.
Friday, you know.
Yeah. I guess not.
Yeah, it could be. So now it gets clarified. So Rabbi Yochanan, how could Rabbi Yochanan say you only need 2 if based on the machlekes before Rabbi Yochanan would hold 3? To make the matters worse, how could anyone hold 2? But Rabbi Islay the Rava. Rabba holds of Rava. Rabba that it's because of Lishma. He holds that it's also to validate witnesses. We're on Hayamid Beis. I'll catch you up in a second. So if that's the case, so everyone should hold 3 because everyone holds that you need to validate the document. Rather, everyone holds because of the concern that maybe you won't be able to validate the document. And Naftali, we were talking about this. Here we're discussing, can you use a witness as a judge? The shliach nasa eid is, of course, the shliach, the messenger could, of course, be a witness. The question is, can a witness be a judge? The one that says that you need 2 people, he holds kasav shliach nasa eid and ve'ed nasa dayan. He says just as he could be, the shliach could be a witness, the messenger, the courier here could be the witness. He could also be the judge. So therefore, it's considered like there's 3 people because he's included. So everyone holds we're validating the document, and you're doing this in a court, and there's really 3 people there. The question is, how do you count to 3? 2 people plus the messenger. The one that says you need a different set of 3, that the witness cannot be a judge. The witness can't be a judge, so you need an independent 3 people. The Gemara says, what are you talking about? Everyone holds that you can use a witness as a judge if it's rabbinic law. And since validating documents is rabbinic, it's not like Kiddush HaChodesh, which is a deraisa, you're going to establish the month. Over there, we say, Ein Eid Nasa Dayan. But over here, we should say Eid Nasa Dayan. Everyone holds that. So everyone should hold you only need 2 people plus the witness. Who says, who would hold that you need 3? Rather, what we're discussing here is like this. Where's that based in coming into this whole thing with the get? The reason why we introduced the concept of a bezdin is because we're trying to validate a document, and notarizing this document requires a court. So that's why we're saying that you need 3 people.
So are they applying that to Lishma also?
No, the Shema only needs 2 people, but to notarize a document, you need 3 people. Today, you just need the stamp.
I'm trying to see what Chaim was talking about.
Yeah, so and that's actually what's coming out. What Chaim said is exactly what the Gemara says. That really you have 2 people plus, you really do have 3 people. plus the witness, and that's acceptable. So why does one person say that you need three? So it goes like this. Sometimes a woman could also be a shliach to bring a get. Sometimes a woman would bring a get. Now, if you would think that you only need two people there, we're going to forget that the only reason why two was enough was because the witness, the messenger that brought the get, was the third. And we're not going to forget, we're going to think you only need two. And this really, when you have a court, it needs to be three men, not two men and a woman. So that's why that other opinion held that you needed three. Let me just finish this thought. And the other opinion that says two is enough, it says Isha made the other. Everyone knows that if a woman's coming, we're not going to rely on her to be part of the court. Okay. Yeah, you have a question?
These witnesses are just like confirming that the woman received the gift. They didn't witness the signature.
No. These witnesses, the one side, there's two things going on. I have a messenger that's coming that witnessed the writing and signing of the get. I have two people that are witnessing the delivery of the get, and they're also hearing the declaration that it was written and signed in front. Can I catch you up? You okay? Basically, what we're just discussing over here, the shliach that brings a get in Medina Sayyam in Eretz Yisrael, he has to say b'fanei nichtav, b'fanei nechtam. I was there I know everything was good. It's machlikas why? It's machlikas Rabba and Rabba. Rabba says because maybe in chuslars they don't do a get lishma, so we need him to say that he was there. He knows that it was done kosher, like a mashgiach. And Rava says because we want to be makayim the shtar, we want to make sure that the edim are valid, and we're going to rely on one person that's the shliach that's bringing the get to tell us that the edim are good, because we won't be able to do kiyum shtaris to recognize the signatures, because no one here knows the people that signed on the back over there. So therefore we have him state right now that it's good, and the document is good. Now there's nafkaminas between them. Anyway, now the Gemara said today that the machlekes Rabba and Rava is also machlekes Rabbi Shua ben Levi and Rabbi Yochanan, where Rabba held of Rabbi Shua ben Levi and Rava held of Rabbi Yochanan. Now there was a Gemara before where Rabba also holds of Rava. It was just that Rava doesn't hold of Rabba. So that's okay.
You know, until now, I thought these conditions were a kumra because of the importance of a get, but now it looks like it's a kula, because the Beis Din, wherever it is that the woman lives, is not really makayim those signatures. It's relying on one person instead of normally requiring two.
Exactly. What you're saying is a statement of the brisa that we had before. We said you have to
bring the trophy of heart on.
That it's coming to be lenient. Yes. Yeah, it's coming to be lenient. And instead of having to validate the document later, we take care of it all now and it's all good. She's divorced. Okay. Tanya Kava said to Rabbi Yochanan, we have a brisa that supports Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan said you only need two people there, and the brisa is going to support that. Maybe get me Medina Sayyam b'nasnala. Someone brings a get from overseas and he gives it to her. And he doesn't say the statement that he was supposed to say. He was supposed to say that it was written and signed in my presence. He didn't say that. So it sounds like there's a little problem going on. Yaitzi, the new husband, we jumped in a whole story over here. After she thinks she's divorced, she then finds someone else and she gets married to him. And Vahavlad Mamzer, Divrei Meir, the child that she had from the new husband is a Mamzer, and which is a huge problem because she wasn't really divorced from this rabbinic issue of saying in front of me it was written, in front of me it was signed, has just ruined her get, and now she's an Eisesish, a married woman that's living with another man. The Chum say the child is not a mamzer. That was just a rabbinic law that the messenger was supposed to say that. But Kate said, "Yeah. So what should you do? Yitleno himena, take the get back from her. And give it to her again in front of two people. And say that in front of me it was written, in front of me it was signed. It's all good." The Gemara asks, it's a little extreme to say that because the messenger didn't say the child is a mamzer and you have to get divorced. Gemara says yes, it's actually the case. Rav is following this reason. Rav Amnuna says in the name of Ula, Mishmei Ula, Rav Meir, that Rav Meir would say, Ula was the traveler. He never heard from Rav Meir. Ula was much later than Rav Meir. He says that Rav Meir would say, anyone that changes from the formula that was fixed by the sages, by the get, you cannot change anything by this matpeya. Matpeya is like a coinage, like minted. The way that the get needs to be done is like minted. You can't alter it anyway. Any deviation from the rules. Well, it's a figurative. It's an expression. It's like it's a. What is it? Which means? Oh, it's a minted phrase, like that. That's what it means. Matbea lashon.
It's worth you coming just to learn that.
Okay. So what we got from this was that Rabbi Yochanan that said two. We now have a brisa that supports it. That when it says that you have to take it back and give it again in front of two people. Two people. That's a support for Rabbi Yochanan. Okay. Bar Hadiya Ba'ilasu Yagita. Bar Hadiya, I don't know if anyone remembers from Brachas. At the end of Brachas, there was a fellow Bar Hadiya that was interpreting dreams for Abaye and Rava. Remember, Rava was very upset with him because he interpreted that his wife was going to die.
Money.
And Rava didn't pay him. Abaye paid him. He interpreted good for Abaye. Anyway, from the Gemara Brachas, it looks like he's a real scoundrel. And
there's a note.
Anyway, it's probably not the same person, even though it's exactly the same name. It's probably not the same person. But over there, I thought he wasn't even Jewish. That's what. But over here, do they say it's the same person, or do they say? I mean, it's someone with the same name, but I don't know. From this story, it doesn't look like he's the same person. Anyway, he wants to bring a get. It comes to Ravachi. When it comes to Gittin and Kedushin, the Gemara tells us that Kol Sheni Yedei B'Tiv Gittin and Kedushin Lo Yeisek Imam. If you don't know the laws of Gittin and Kedushin perfectly, you should not be involved at all. It's not like you can do this a little bit. It's probably like a doctor. You know, you can't be just like, I know a little bit of medicine. By a rabbi, it's okay. A little bit of it. Anyway, so when it comes to Gittin, you have to be an expert. Ravachi was the expert in Gittin. And so he goes to Ravachi. He tells him, look, you're going to be bringing a get from Chutzlar to Eretz Yisrael. You have to make sure that you're standing at the get while they write every single letter, because you're going to need to make a statement when you get there that I was there when they wrote it. Also, Kami the Rabami Rabasi goes, he's a rabbi, what is this called? Rabbi hopping. Goes to Rabami and Rabasi. They say you don't need to. You don't need to stand there. If you say that maybe he doesn't say, Rashi says you don't need, from the Gemara it looks you don't need to stand there at all. Rashi says you only need to stand there for one line, the first line. You know. But maybe you say that you be strict. Why not? Just be strict. It says if you do that, then you're going to make it look that the other people that did not stand there are not so kosher the Gittin, and it's going to cast aspersions on those Gittin, and that's not good. Just follow the rule. Well, Rabbi Bar Bachana, Isi Gita, Rabbi Bar Bachana brought a get. Half of it was written in front of him, half not. So it means how many lines are in a get? Remember? Does it say there's 12 lines in the get? He was there for 6 lines. Gimel and Test, the Gematria, the first Taisvis of the Masechta. Asalakame, the Rab Elazar came in front of Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Elazar is a friend of Rabbi Yochanan, a student and a friend. Amalei, feel like Kasabay Lashita Achas Lishma Shavein Tzarech. You only had to be there for one line, and that's enough. Like we were saying before from Rabami and Rabasi. Ravashi Amar, Ravashi has even a more lenient view. I feel kan kolmasa kan megilta. Now, what does this mean? Kan kolmasa. There's 2 interpretations here. One is if he hears him fixing the quill. and he hears him fixing the cloth, or he hears the writing of the pen against, it sounds like the chalk on the board, right? As long as it's not the fingernails on the blackboard. So
Why does he wouldn't waste that?
he's saying that that's considered that you were there at the writing. Like, what do you have? Like, how there do you have to be? You have to like stare at it. You have to be in the room. He says all you have to do is hear the sound of that scratching of the quill against the parchment, probably. That's considered that you were there. Yeah. Now, Rashi says that maybe it was supposed to say some have a kal kolmasa. Kal would mean the sound of. How'd kal turn into kan? The lamed and nun don't look alike, but when people say the word kal sounds like kan. Maybe someone was saying what to write. This was dictated. We got two different versions over here. That's my theory. Okay, Tani Kavasei de Ravashi. I mean, I didn't see that in the commentaries. Tani Kavasei de Ravashi. It was the brisa that was taught, that was supporting Ravashi. Maybe get from Medina Sayyam. Someone brings a get from overseas. Even if he's in the house, but the sefer that's writing the get is in the attic. Hu baliyah v'sefer bayis, or the opposite. He's in the attic and the sefer is downstairs in the main house. Even if he's going in and out the whole day, it's kosher. Okay, we're gonna have to see what that means. Gemara says, "Hu b'bayis v'sefer baliyah." If he's in the house and the sefer is in the attic, so he never even walked by the sefer. The sefer was in the attic the whole time. He's only downstairs. He never saw him. The sound barriers, you could hear it through the walls back then. So he heard the scratching of the quill against the parchment. Today they use paper, but that's enough. Proof to Ravashi that hearing the sound is enough. You don't have to actually watch it. Yeah, get is handwritten. And today they use paper, but probably back then they used parchment. Amar Mar, saw it in a brisa. Amar Mar, brisa says, even if the person is coming in and out the entire day, it's kosher. Man, who is coming in and out? If you say the shliach was walking in and out the whole day of the room, when he was in the house and the sefer was in the attic, he never even saw the sefer because the sefer was upstairs the whole time. But nevertheless, we said that's kosher, and he could say that it was written and signed in front of me. So if you want to say that he walks in and out, he's a yotzev v'nichnas. If you want to say that that's kosher, of course it's kosher. Even if he never even saw the guy, it was kosher. For sure, if he walks in and out, it's going to be kosher. Nichnas v'yotzev mibayev, that's obvious. El sefer, you know who's walking in and out? Not the mashkiach, not the shliach, not the person that's bringing the get. It's the sefer that was going in and out. The Gemara says, Pshita, of course, what's the problem? Because he goes out to the bathroom or whatever, maybe to smoke. You were going to say it's puzzle. No, we're saying that he went to the marketplace and he came back. We're not worried. Let me tell you what this means. I could have thought that maybe when he went to the marketplace, he was writing a get over here for a guy by the name of Yosef ben Shimon, who was divorcing his wife, Yosefa bas Shimona. Yeah, and when he gets to the marketplace, there's a guy over there that says, you're a sefer. I want to divorce my wife. Can you do me a favor? Write a get for my wife, Yosefa bas Shimona. My name is Yosef ben Shimon. And when he gets back, he ends up continuing the get, but for the wrong intention. I could have thought that that's maybe a possibility, and this get should be puzzle. We should not let the sefer leave just in case he's going. The problem is that maybe someone gave him instructions when he was out there, and he's now writing with the wrong. Mashmallah, we're not worried about that. That's not a concern. The sefer is allowed to step outside. Okay. Itzmar. Statement of Amiroim, Bavel, regarding the country of Bavel. Rav Amar Keretz Yisrael Gittin Bavel is Babylonia. Rav says that Bavel is just like Israel. Chutz Laaretz, in the diaspora, you have to say, if you bring a get from Chutz Laaretz, outside the land of Israel, you have to say B'fani Nechta, B'fani Nechta. Not from Bavel. Not from Bavel. Bavel is like Keretz Yisrael. If you bring a get from Bavel, there's no concern about Bavel.
Bavel
to Israel, There's no problem. Now, I just explained this, that we're talking about from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael. It's actually not so clear. Some say it's talking about from in Bavel itself, and you go from one.
What are the borders exactly? Is it just against the Tigris or like Iraq?
We're going to see soon what the borders are of Bavel. It's a good question. Shmuel Amar Kechutz La'aretz. Shmuel says no. Bavel is the same like Chutz La'aretz.
Beis Rabbeinu Shebbovel is also how Lusha, not like Chutzla.
Yeah, we'll see, and some of the logic would apply as well. We'll see. Lema b'hakam miflagi. Say that the machlekes between Rav and Shmuel is the following machlekes. The Mar Savel of Hishem became Lishma v'hani Gemiri. Why should Bavel be different? Well, Rav that says Bavel is different is because the reason why you have to say b'fanei nechtav is because we're worried about Lishma. Maybe people in Chutz La'aretz don't know to do a get properly, but in Bavel there's such Talmidei Chachamim, there's Torah sages, for sure they know how to do it. That's why Rav says Bavel is like Israel. And what does Shmuel hold? Shmuel says the issue is that we don't have travelers that are going to recognize the signatures. So what's the difference if they tell me the Chachamim? You still don't have travelers. You don't have travelers. So if they bring a get from one place in Bavel or to another, or you bring from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael, whichever is the pshat over here. So then you still need to say, according to Shmuel. But Tizbara, is that really? Are you able to say this? But Rabbi Slay the Rava. Remember, we said that Rabbi holds of Rava, which means that everyone is concerned of travelers and witnesses and all of that. So everyone should say Bavel is not like Eretz Yisrael, like Shmuel said. Everyone holds that yes, we do need to validate the document. So how could Bavel be like Eretz Yisrael if you don't have the travelers? Rav holds given the Mishka because there are yeshivas there. Everyone's going to yeshiva. There's bachrim that are going back and forth and traveling in suitcases and things and all of this. Everyone knows witnesses and they recognize signatures. Shmuel holds Masifta Begirsayu to read the yeshiva bachrim don't know about signatures. That's something that they only know in the marketplace. They're busy learning. They're not examining who are the signatures of the people in the marketplace that sign documents and this. They don't know that. So if they're traveling back to Eretz Yisrael, you think you're going to find a yeshiva bacher in Eretz Yisrael that's going to say, I recognize the signature from Bavel. They're busy learning. It's Manami. We have another statement. Amar Rababa, Amar Rav Huna. Rababa says name of Rav Huna. It could be Rabba Bar Rav Huna. It's different versions. Asinu atzmina beBavel ke Eretz Yisrael legittin mechiyasa Rav leBavel. When Rav came to Bavel, then Bavel became like Eretz Yisrael. So, but you don't need to say.
After the Korban, were people going back and forth between Bavel and Eretz Yisrael, like they were permitted to do so? Or is it predating?
When were they going back and forth? This was already in Talmudic times when they were traveling. There were yeshivas in Bavel from the destruction of the first Beis Hamikdash.
I think the Romans allowed some even to.
Yeah, people were traveling.
Study,
People were traveling. Yeah. A lot of people came to study by Rabbi Yochanan. But there were Talmidei Chacham in Bavel already from way before this. But the yeshivas, the establishment of these yeshivas that people would travel is in Talmudic times. So when Rav comes to Bavel, so then Bavel becomes like Eretz Yisrael. Massive Rabbi Yirmiyah has a question. Rabbi Yirmiyah quotes the Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda, what are the borders of Israel? Ashkelon to the south, Akko to the north, the Rechem is to the east. Says Rabbi Yirmiyah asks a question about Bavel. Let's find it there. Eretz Yisrael Kaima. Bavel is in the north. The Ksiv says, this is in Yirmiyah. Hashem says to me, Mitzvayin tiftach hara. From the north, the evil's going to come. He's talking about Bavel, right? Babylonia destroyed the Beis Hamikdash. It's going to come from the north. Utanan, what was to the north? Akko. Reb Meir, Akko Eretz Yisrael Gittin. Reb Meir says that Akko is, although it's not Israel proper.
Very different than our current map.
Yeah, well, there's a thesis at the beginning that discusses exactly Akko, how it works. But Akko, according to Reb Meir, regarding Gittin, Akko is like Eretz Yisrael. But how could you say that Bavel is Israel or has the laws of Israel for Gittin if Reb Meir is willing to extend it until Akko, but not all the way till Bavel? Well, Rabbi Yirmi asked the question, he answers it. He says, you know what the Mishnah meant? Labar mi Bavel, besides for Bavel. Maybe get Medina Sayyam, someone brings from overseas, everything with the exception of Bavel. Adhechani Bavel, this is Jonathan, this is your question. Until where is the borders of Bavel? There's a discussion in Masechta Kedushin about marrying people that don't have yichus, the proper lineage. Turns out that Bavel, they were very careful about the lineage, and in Eretz Yisrael they were not. So they were discussing what's the area of Bavel, what's considered Bavel proper, and so whatever there's a machlekes over there, that would be the same thing about Gittin. What would be considered? Rav Yosef Amar machlekes liyochsin avol Gittin dev'yakol ad arba tinyana de gishra. There is a machlekes over there about yochsin. However, when it comes to Gittin, Bavel ends at the second boat of the bridge. Apparently, they would make bridges out of boats. Julius Caesar did this. What they would do is they would line up the boats and along the river, and then they would put like a mat over it. They would just a bunch of boats, and then they would just take the
pontoon bridge.
pontoon. Oh yeah. From where to where?
The river you had a 40.
I think Alexander the Great actually built a bridge to go to Tyre.
Oh yeah. So Rav Chisda matzrich mi aktisfen lebeyardashir, mi beyardashir laktisfen loy matzrich. This is very interesting. Rav Chisda said that there's two cities. One is called Aktisfen, one is called Beyardashir. From Aktisfen to Beyardashir, people in Beyard, let me just set it up like this. The Aktisfen was a place where they had a market. It was like a big fair area. People had their booths over there and this. Beyardashir were merchants that would come there to Aktisfen to buy things. So what happened is people in Beyardashir were merchants. They were buying to bring back to other places. In Aktisfen, people had if you're coming from Beyardashir, if you're coming from Aktisfen to Beyardashir, bringing a get from Aktisfen to Beyardashir, you needed to say b'fani nechta, b'fani nechta. People in Beyardashir would not recognize the signatures of Aktisfen. However, Beyardashir Aktisfen, if you're coming to Aktisfen, the woman was in Aktisfen, people over there would recognize the signature. That's where the fair was. So loy matzrich, he didn't need to say it. Let's say that the difference is in Aktisfen, they were not experts in Lishma, Bahani Gemiri, but Beyardashir they were. So the Gemara says, "B'tizbra, how could you say that that's the issue?" But obviously the Rava, but everyone holds that you need to validate signatures, and Ella the Kuli Alma rather. What's going on? Being on the kaima, you need to validate signatures. What's going on here is like this: that the people that came to Bavel, I'm sorry, not to Bavel, the people that came to Aktisfen, they did not recognize the signatures of people of Aktisfen. They would have to pay in documents. They were signing papers and they would give it to the sellers of Aktisfen. The sellers in Aktisfen knew signatures because they were the ones that were holding these documents. The other people were going from stall to stall looking. They weren't busy looking at signatures on checks and things like that. Okay. Rabba bar Ravua matzrich miyar salasir. Rabba Bavua required even going from one side of the street to the other. To say b'fani nechta, b'fani nechta. Rav Sheshes matzrich mishchuna l'shchuna. You have to say b'fani nechta even from one neighborhood to another neighborhood. What's a neighborhood? A few houses. Rav Sheshes, Rava matzrich places shchuna. Rava required even in his own neighbor, in the same neighbor. He says, how could you say that? Rava says that you won't be able to find witnesses. He says, Shani b'nei Mechuzah denied the people of Mechuzah. They're always traveling. Possible that people are signing documents and they're going to move. No one recognized over there. They're travelers. They were always going on vacations. Transient. Okay. Okay, we'll stop over here.